Hi guys, in today's video we're going to be looking at solving equations. So what does it mean to solve an equation? To solve an equation just means that we need to find a solution of that equation. The most important thing that we must remember when solving an equation is that the goal is to write the equation in variable constant form, where your variable is a letter or a symbol and your constant is a number of some sort. So just remember, whatever equation you get, your end result has to be that you have a letter or a symbol on one side, whichever side, and a constant on the other side. In order to solve equations, you got to be familiar with two properties: the addition property and the multiplication property. The addition property, this is where some number is added to each side of the equation without changing the equation solution. And the multiplication property, this is where each side of an equation can be multiplied by the same non-zero number without changing its solution. So depending on the equation that you get, you're going to be using these two properties. You might use them both within the same equation. Okay, so keep these things in mind when working with equations, and let's get started. Okay, so in our first example, we're going to look at what do you do when you're asked if a number is a solution to an equation. So in this case, we're asked, is 4 a solution to 2x equals 8? As you can see in this case, it's very straightforward, very simple. All you have to do is replace 4 where x is and solve and see what kind of answer you get. So once we replaced the variable with the number, we get that 2 times 4 is equals 8. Notice here how both sides of the equation match. So this is what you would call a true solution. So in this case, your solution is correct. 4 is a solution to 2x equals 8. If this had given you a different kind of number, then your solution will be false. Okay, here we're asked if negative 2 is a solution to 3a plus 2 equals 2 minus a. So same thing, we just have to replace a using negative 2 and see what kind of numbers we get. Okay, once we've replaced a with negative 2, here you see that we get 3 times negative 2 is equals negative 6 plus 2. And when you add 2 to negative 6, you get negative 4. Now on this side, remember that when you multiply two negative signs, you get a positive sign. So here we got 2 minus, this will be, if you really want to go all the way through, this will be a negative 1, right? Remember that the 1 is implied. So this makes it into a positive 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So in this case, our solution is wrong. So in this case, negative 2 is not a solution to 3a plus 2 equals 2 minus a. Now we're asked to solve an equation in the form of x plus a equals b. So what the addition property tells us is that we have to move terms that are different from the variable from that one side to the other side. So even though it's telling us to, in this case, we will need to add the 4 on both sides, you're basically just moving it to the other side. So what we need to do here is add 4 to this side, but we're also going to add 4 to this side. Okay, so now the 4 cancels out on this side, and now you're left with x equals 6. And that's your answer. Now what you need to do to know if this is if your answer is correct, you need to check your answer. So how do you do that? All you have to do is replace x with the variable. You have to replace x with the number, with the constant. So if we replace the x with the constant, we get 6 minus 4 equals 2. This gives us 2. And this gives us 2. So that means that your answer is correct. Okay, here we're asked to solve m plus 2/3 equals negative 1/3. You're gonna follow the same thing. In this case, since the 2/3 is a positive, that means that you have to subtract it from both sides, right? So what we have to do here is subtract 2/3 from this side. You also do it to this other side, right? This cancels out, and you're left with m equals negative 1/3 minus 2/3. And in this case, your answer is just your answer is just negative 1. Now, if you want to check it, we can go ahead and check it. Remember that this number, the negative 1, and the negative 3/3 is the same thing. So whichever way you want to substitute the m with, in order to check your answer, it doesn't matter, it's the same number. But since we're working with fractions, we can use the negative 3/3, which is also negative 1. So let's check our answer. So once we checked our answer, we see that our solution is correct. So that means that m equals negative 1 is your correct answer. Okay, now we're asked to solve an equation in the form of ax equals b, or a times x equals b. Remember that the multiplication property tells us to remove a coefficient by multiplying each side of the equation by the reciprocal of that coefficient. Here we have 5x equals negative 15. So in order to solve this equation, what we have to do is multiply the reciprocal of the coefficient. So in this case, the coefficient is your constant, to both sides. So what is the reciprocal of 5? 1/5. So you multiply that on both sides of the equation. We cancel out the 5's here, and then we get x equals, on this side, what we can do is simplify now or simplify later, it doesn't matter. But you know that if you cancel the 5, here you can do a 3. So your answer is negative 3. Now remember, if you want to check your answer, all you got to do is substitute your constant where x is. So once we replaced the variable with the constant and we get our answer, negative 15 is equals to negative 15, you know that this solution is correct. Same thing as we did here. All we got to do is multiply the reciprocal of the coefficient on both sides. So normally what you do, even though we did it like this on this example, is to show you what you're exactly doing. But in reality, all you got to do is you're really just dividing the coefficient on both sides. So if we were to do that here, you're just dividing this side of the equation by 2, and then you do the same thing here. These 2 cancel out, and you're left with 9 equals t. So if we were to do the equation just as we did here, it will look something like this. This 18 equals 2t. You multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1/2. And the same thing here. You know that the 2's cancel out. And the 2, you cancel it here for a 1, and this becomes a 9, right? So you're left with the same answer. You're left with 9 equals t. Because both numbers are positive, you can rewrite it also as t equals 9. It's the same thing. All right, guys. So this was just a very, very basic intro to solving equations. When dealing with equations, you just have to remember that this is your most important thing. This is your most important goal. That the end of your equation has to be in variable equals constant form. Doesn't matter which side is what. It could be on either side, as long as this is the goal that you end with. Okay? When solving equations, you'll be dealing with the addition property, multiplication properties. And that's pretty much it. So if you like the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe.